Well, hey there, you're on the internet, I have some free time, and welcome to the Triple N Network, where all you newbie nib nerds can find all the news you'll need. Let's look at an ink today, shall we? Now, today's ink is one I've had a review done for a while. However, I have fiddled with my camera more than I ever have before in order to try and get this ink to show up like it should, and I can't get it. So I'm going to try and fix it in post, but yeah, so everything with a grain of salt as far as color goes here. But that ink is Private Reserve Sherwood Green, and all the tests were done in this Faber-Castell Loom in medium. Okay, and I just wanted to compare Private Reserve Sherwood Green to Diamine Sherwood Green, which, even though the color isn't coming up quite accurate, you'll see that Sherwood Green definitely is darker, especially where it's laid on pretty thick. It's more saturated. It tends to have, I sort of don't know what to call it, but it's almost more texture. I don't know, it's like you can see the flowing areas more easily than you can here. And I also just wanted to compare chromatography, because here in the Diamine, as you can see, there's this blue at the bottom, and then this very bright green in very separate bands, and then a very dark band up at the top. However, Diamine Sherwood Green, good God, I hope I'm able to fix this in post, because right now it looks like it's glowing. But anyways, it's sort of a lighter green, not much remain, then sort of a medium green, and then a very light blue at the corners, and a still pretty light-ish blue right up at the top. So, as you might be able to tell, not a lot of potential for water resistance, because a lot of it's going to be washing off, and it's going to, well, it's going to get a little messy. So, paper test, top down in density, Clairefontaine 90 grams per square meter. Let me get that out of the way so it's not confusing. 17 seconds to dry, but as seems to be the case with many people with their Faber-Castell looms, this was a bit on the wet side, and it was a little broad for a medium nib. So of course I was loving it, but yeah, so long dry times, keep that in mind. There's good shading. There's no sheen. There's no bleed feather spread. The water test is very messy. Most of it's gone. It did dye the page. And I said there was bleed in spots, but it's mostly in the water test, and then I actually put it down in the next test before it was dry. So, Next is Rhodia, 80 grams per square meter. Again, 16 seconds to dry. Great shading. It's a very vibrant green, and even though I'm loving the green that's on the screen at this moment, it's not the green that this ink actually is. But yeah, as you might be able to tell here in the scribble, you get great halo effect and you get a little bit of sheen. However, I had to lay it on so thick that yeah, bleed and darkest wettest parts where I'm stupid, because I scrubbed right through the paper. So but yeah, it's pretty well behaved. I really liked this pen, paper, and ink combo. The shading was great. The color was great. It was very well behaved. But as you can see, yeah, it pretty much all is gone. It dyed the paper a bit, but it's mostly all gone. And wow, that is just glowing. What is going on? My camera just cannot figure out greens today. Or ever, apparently. Next is Tomoe River Paper, where it took 18 seconds to dry. And here you see more sheen without bleeding through the paper. And it's in the words too, but I always have such a hard time getting that on camera. It's always easiest in the scrubby, but anyways, bold, vibrant color, nice shading, no bleed feather spread. But again, it's essentially gone. It's lightly dyed the page. And because it is actually a fairly dark green, there might be some echo potential. So if you're very sensitive to that, that's something to be aware of. Next is 20-pound copier paper, where I feel like the ink got much lighter, in part because it couldn't shade. I feel like the shading sort of helps darken it up a bit. But 3 seconds to dry. As you can see, there is no shading. There is bleed and feather and spread. It's not the most well-behaved, but again, like I said, it was kind of wet and it was kind of broad for a medium. It was on the broader side of medium. And the water test was disastrous. It's been a while since I've seen a test that bad. Yeah, so maybe in a fine or an extra fine, especially a Japanese extra fine would probably do much, much better. Next is Mead Notebook Paper, where it took 2 seconds to dry. And you get spread and feathering, and it's not great. There's no shading left. It's still kind of, it's been lightened somewhat because the shading's been stripped away. I said not an ideal pen, paper, and ink combo. That water test is pretty disastrous. You can still kind of see where the words were at the middle, but they've really exploded. They've really feathered. And again, you know, it was wet and it was broadish for a medium, so, you know, let's be fair, sliding scale. And lastly is Moleskine notebook paper, where it took 5 seconds to dry, and I'm going to try and hold this really still because it got pretty ugly. Spread and feathering. I said there's essentially no shading, but I mean when you come in real close you can see some, but still not a lot. The water test was pretty disastrous. It exploded, it feathered, it's still mostly gone. The bleed was pretty terrible, but again it was fairly wet and it was a bit on the broad side, so... So there you go for your consideration from the Triple N Network. Private Reserve Sherwood Green. I really like Diamine Sherwood Green, but I think I might prefer Private Reserve Sherwood Green. It just, it's not as well behaved perhaps, but yeah, there's just something about it. The color, the texture, the shading. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, so... For your consideration from the Triple N Network, if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more, please subscribe to the channel, and thanks for watching. Bye.